Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of Think Africa's iBook series. My name is Sofia Achame. I'm a human rights lawyer and the vice chair at Think Africa. Over the coming week, I'm going to be moderating discussions and asking the questions you want answered about the municipal elections that's going to happen on June 13th this year. Think Africa, in collaboration with Moniheli and Theo Media, are bringing you this series in order to bring awareness about the municipal election happening in June, and also so that you get to know why election is important and how you can participate. In addition, Think Africa as an organization that is empowering the African diaspora in Finland, we wanted this series to be a platform for African candidates or candidates of African descent or members of Think Africa. Personally speaking, I'm very happy to be hosting this event and to be part of this event, as it is an information sharing session where we get to hear practical information from an expert and also get to know about the candidates that are running this year. Personally, although I have lived in Finland for 11 years, I have actually never voted. And I have a few reasons as to why I have not. Language has been one, not being able to understand what the political parties stand for. My second reason is that there's an overwhelming number of political parties in Finland, I think, and trying to understand what they're about and also what their differences has been quite challenging for me. My third reason is it has been a bit, there is a bit of a lack of belongingness I had felt as a student and as an immigrant in Finland, and the challenges that come with it. And I'm sure many of you share these experiences and probably have a lot of other reasons why you haven't participated in political processes in Finland. So through this series, we hope that some of these barriers will be reduced so that you're able to go and this June go and actually vote. This is because the municipal elections in Finland are one of the democratic processes where we're able to make our voices heard and make an impact on decisions that affect our daily lives. So from the 13th of April until the 22nd, every Tuesday and Thursday at 5:30, there will be a panel discussion of three candidates from different cities and different political parties. You'll get to hear about these candidates and also about the political parties they represent. Before having these panel discussions, we thought it would be good to have an expert here to explain a bit about what kind of decisions are actually made at the municipal councils. And so today I have a guest with me here to tell you a bit about the decisions that are made at the municipal level, the political processes, a bit about participation and representation. So I would like to introduce you to Peter Kariuki, a senior officer at the Ministry of Justice and the Secretary General for Ethno.
Thank
Welcome,
you so much.
Peter.
Thank you so much, Sofia, for having me. It's
Thank you so much for coming.
Here. Yeah.
Please start with introducing yourself for our audience a bit.
Yes, and it's with great pleasure and thanks to Think Africa and of course Moniheli and the third partner, whose name I can't remember right now, for organizing this series of informative sessions where people can get more information on the upcoming elections and on participation in general. I come from the Ministry of Justice, as Sofia has described here, the Department for Democracy and Fundamental Rights, which is the department that is actually mandated with the task of being the main overseer of the elections. My voice is a bit hoarse, so please understand if I'm not very audible, but I'll try my best to keep up with Sofia here today. But it's with pleasure that I am I'm here today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So I would like to start with the basics.
Yes.
Please explain a bit about the political landscape of Finland shortly. I know this is a very big topic, but just to see where the power of the municipal councils are situated under this landscape.
Okay. Actually, before I get into that very interesting and broad question, let me say I'm highly surprised that Sofia, after a decade of being in Finland, has not participated in any elections. But on the other hand, the reasons that you gave for not participating in any elections were very, very understandable, very comprehensible, and they're easy to relate to. And some of the things that you mentioned as being the reasons for not voting, we are going to talk about them partially during our discussion today. Let me clarify this from the very beginning. My expertise on elections and democracy issues is mainly by default. I deal with many other issues in the ministry, policy issues in the ministry. And because this is an ongoing cyclic process, elections and democracy policy development, that I have become conversant with our Finnish democratic system. If there's anything that is unclear or anything that is wrongfully conveyed through our discussion today, please don't hesitate to contact me or my colleagues at the ministry for clarification or for confirmation. We are always available and we are there to serve the public. But coming to your question, the Finnish political landscape, if we keep things in a very simple and basic format, one of the four main pillars of Finnish society is democracy. This is a democratic state where the power rests with the people. It's a parliamentary democracy, and that is one of the main principles of the society. Of course, in addition to observance of fundamental rights, rule of law, and equality and gender equality as being the other three pillars in addition to democracy. So when we put through the constitution the power in the people, it is the people who then establish the governing organs in this society. And in Finland you have what you call a two-tier system, where you have the central government and then you have the municipalities. So the people will choose the people who will represent them in the central government through the parliament, and the people will choose who will represent them in the municipal governments through the municipal councils. It's just that simple. And this is a very, as I said before our discussion, this is a very sacred structure. It's not unique, it's present in many countries, but in Finland it's a very sacred structure to have an independent, reliable and safe democratic structure where people can vote in peace and rely on the results of the votes in order to establish organs of decision making on their behalf. It is actually in my opinion one of the main reasons that creates stability in a country like this one.
Absolutely.
So when we are talking about the municipal elections, they are of course starting from the Finnish constitution of 1999-2000 that rests that power within the people. Then it gives the people the right every 4 years to elect a municipal council that is equivalent or that is proportionate to the population of the municipality for a 4-year term. And the people who are elected to the municipal councils are representatives of political parties that have nominated them. So when these people are elected into municipal councils, then they will take up the positions of civil council representative or municipality council representatives, and from there then different tasks are divided amongst the members. Maybe we can go about that in detail a bit later.
Yes.
But the system is just that simple. I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible here.
Yes.
That it's a two-tier system, but the main principles are the same. The democracy has to work freely, fairly, and safely to assure that everybody has the right and the opportunity to vote our organs of power into office.
Yeah.
For 10 years, 4 or 5 years, it depends on what kind of elections.
And that's why also it's different cities have different parties who are in power, isn't it so?
Exactly.
Depending on the people in that city who have voted. So in some cities, some parties are majority, and in another, there are other parties.
Exactly. Now, coming back to your point where you said that there are many political parties, based on your experience that you you can't keep up with the main which political parties. It is very important to stress that many countries, now if we go to the election systems, many countries have election systems where you have first by the post system. So, for example, Sofia is a candidate representing party X, and you're a candidate in certain elections, and if you get the most amount of votes, then you go in as the representative of that party. In Finland, it's a bit different. In Finland, we have what we call proportional representation. And when we're talking about proportional representation, it means that you are not only voting for the person that you see on the ballot, but you're also voting for the political party that they represent.
Yes.
Now, the number of votes a political party gets is proportionally divided between the parties. So the party that gets proportionally the most votes becomes the biggest party, and the party that gets the least votes becomes the least party. Now, what makes it a bit complicated is that you can be candidate Sofia representing the smallest party, okay? But you can get lots of votes.
Yes.
But your party did not necessarily get many votes. So you end up representing a smaller party. And there could be a candidate from party Z who got a few votes, but because their leading candidate got many votes, then they are also going to go into the municipal council or the parliament.
Yeah.
So proportional representation is like a division, a proportional division of the votes between the political parties that are there.
Is it as opposed to throwing out, in other countries, it's who won is into the seats, and the rest of the parties, they're not allowed in. This is a bit of a compromise.
Yes.
They have to sit down and work between each other, all the parties,
well,
I would say.
It's not necessarily have to sit down. The proportions will determine themselves. The proportions, because the number of seats are limited.
Yes.
We know that, for example, in the parliament, there are 200 seats.
Yes.
And there are 16 regions in Finland, and each region will produce a certain number of seats to compose the 200. And so the proportional representation of every region from every party. For example, party X got 25% of the votes. It means that party X will get 25% of the seats from that region.
Yes.
And what that means is that if we were candidates for party X and you got 10,000 votes and I got 1,500 votes, it could be that your 10,000 votes will carry me through to become a representative because our joint party votes, the 25% is so big.
But then is it possible to say that not only should we look at the candidates, but also which party they're from?
Exactly. That's the point. You should not only look at the candidate, but you should also look at the party that you want to vote for.
And the party's agenda and what they are.
Because that's a very good point, because you might like somebody as a candidate and vote for them, but the party they are in might not necessarily carry them to the municipal council. They won't get enough votes to carry them to the municipal council.
Yeah.
So it's very important that you maybe mobilize your friends, acquaintances to vote for a person and the party so that they can be able to carry the person into the municipal council or into the parliament.
But it's not only that. If the political party is not going to let them do what they said they will do when they were advocating for.
Yes.
That's my point, that's why people should actually know what party they're selecting, because even if the person will be so ambitious and say I will do everything, but
yes.
if the party does not allow them, there is a parameter they cannot cross.
Yes, exactly. That's also a good point. Now that goes to the party negotiation, internal party negotiation
Absolutely.
aspects, where the party has an agenda that it wants to push through.
Yes.
Maybe the candidate has their own agenda
Absolutely.
that they have promised you as the voter
Yes.
or the voters, and there might be differences in that. And then parties will also negotiate between themselves, so inter-party negotiations, that if we push this through, maybe you might push that through for us. If we support you on this, maybe you will support this on our side.
Yes.
So that is also part of the political jargonry and negotiation that goes on in parliament, municipal councils, or wheresoever.
Yeah, thank you for that. I wanted to ask you before we go for a break that in a survey done in 2012, maybe it's a bit old, but over 137 foreign nationals were eligible to vote, but only 20% voted. And when they were asked, 40% of them said they didn't know they were allowed to vote, they didn't know they had this right. So I wanted to ask, so who can vote in municipal elections in Finland?
Actually, that's a very good question. Actually, 19.6% only voted, so under 20%.
Yes, under. That's correct.
Compared to the Finnish nationals who voted almost 60%,
Yes.
59.3 or 4%. So many people do not understand the way the election system works. In many countries, you have to register to vote. In Finland, you don't have to register to vote. Through the Finnish population data system, the local authorities can see people who are registered as residents of a particular municipality according to the law.
So what do you have to do?
So what happens is that you will receive by mail your information on the elections and your voting slip through the mail. It should come through the mail.
And perhaps this is why it's important for everybody to live where their address as they're registered, as some people sometimes move from cities to cities and they're not really attached to the address that is in the population register.
Exactly, because the letter will be sent to the address that is in the information system. So it's impossible for the authorities to know whether you have temporarily moved or you are living with a friend or anything like that. So when you receive this information, first of all, don't throw the envelope away. Open it and read it, because it will give you detailed information on your eligibility to vote, where you can vote, how to vote, so basic
and
information, and when to vote. And so who is eligible to vote in the elections? Of course, all Finnish citizens who are on the day of the election 18 years of age. So even if you're going to be 18 on the 13th of June, you can vote. Then in addition to that, you have citizens from the following countries. And I'm going to be very, very specific with this, it's very important. You have citizens of the European Union who are registered to live in a certain municipality. They have the right to vote. And then, in addition to that, you have citizens from the following countries are allowed to vote. The citizens of Iceland and Norway also have the right to vote, because they don't belong to the European Union. And then, citizens of other states or other countries, if they have been residing in Finland for at least 2 years, and on the 51st day before the election, so 51 days before the election, before the voting the registry is compiled. The voter registry
Yes.
is compiled. So 2 years and 51 days before the elections, before the voter registry is compiled. So if you have those criteria, you can vote in an election. You can be a candidate
In an election.
in an election.
Even if you're not a citizen.
Even if you're not a citizen.
Yeah, I have one important question I have in relation to this, but we have to go on a break. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Ikinä ei voi tietää, missä niihin oikein törmää tässä yhteiskunnassa. Mikä ihme tän kaiken takana oikein on? Taas 1 tai 2 uutta sellaista tulossa, vaikea sanoa. Ovat päättäneet, että ihan jokainen luomakunnan jäsen hoidetaan. Päättävät, että täällä voi harrastaa kaikenlaista lorvailua. Tuonnekin laitettu pystyyn oikein oma yhdyskunta. Ja mitä kaikkea ne niille tuolla syöttääkään. Näillä eväilläkö ihmiskunta sitten selviää? Kuka tästä kaikesta päättää?
Anteeksi, rouva.
Mutta minähän se päätän tästä kaikesta. Minä olen yksi heistä. Tai siis, minä olen yksi meistä. Kaiken takana on kunta. Ja me päätämme, millaisessa kunnassa elämme.
Olen Iida Sulin Kuntaliiton lakiyksiköstä ja tällä videolla käsitellään kuntavaaleja. Kuntavaalit toimitetaan 18. päivä huhtikuuta ja niissä kunnan asukkaat pääsevät valitsemaan kunnan valtuuston. Kunnan valtuusto on kunnan ylin toimielin ja sen toimikausi on 4 vuotta. Valtuusto vastaa kunnassa kunnan taloudesta ja toiminnasta ja käyttää kunnan ylintä päätösvaltaa. Valtuusto valitsee jäsenet kunnanhallitukseen ja muihin toimielimeen ja päättää esimerkiksi kunnan strategiasta ja talousarviosta. Kunta on meille kaikille tärkeä. Kunnissa päätetään terveydenhuollon, varhaiskasvatuksen ja ikäihmisten palvelujen kehittämisestä sekä mietitään, miten esimerkiksi katujen kunnossapitoa, liikennettä, muutenkin liikuntaa, kulttuuria kehitetään Suomessa. Äänioikeus kuntavaaleissa on Suomen, EUn, Islannin, Norjan kansalaisilla, jotka viimeistään vaalipäivänä ovat täyttäneet 18 vuotta. Lisäksi edellytetään, että heillä on kotikunta kyseisessä kunnassa 26. päivä helmikuuta 2021. Muut ulkomaalaiset voivat äänestää, jos heillä helmikuun loppupuolella on ollut kotikuntaa Suomessa vähintään 2 vuotta. Kiitos kun kuuntelit.
Welcome back. For those of you who just started watching us on Facebook Live, I'm Sofia Achame from Think Africa, and I have my expert guest with me here, Kariuki from the Ministry of Justice. Before the break, we were just talking about who is eligible to vote in the municipal elections in Finland, and I was about to ask you a question about that I wanted you to emphasize. So, people from the countries you had mentioned before the break and people who have lived in Finland for 2 years and 51 days are eligible to vote.
Yes.
So that's the thing, that you don't have to be a citizen in Finland to vote within the municipal elections.
No. You don't have to be a citizen, and this is one of the actually widely acclaimed aspects of Finnish democracy, that the rights to vote in municipal elections are widely extended
Yes,
to
to residents,
to non-citizens.
For those of you who just started watching us, this is iVote series organized by Think Africa in collaboration with Theo Media and Moniheli. We have an expert guest today, Peter. Again, let's get back to the
Back to the discussion. Yeah.
Yes, but we had some question from our Facebook page. A person had asked that she has a student permit, this B permit, but has lived in Finland. So she has lived in Finland for more than 2 years. Is she eligible to actually vote in the municipal election?
Should be, yes, they should be eligible to vote. If you have lived continuously in the country, in Finland, for over 2 years, and as I said, on 51 days before the elections, your data is in the voter registry, then you should be eligible to vote. It is actually always important if you receive information about voting and you're not sure about it, there is always contact information where you can contact and ask in more detail about your rights to vote and your eligibility to vote and where you can vote. So you can contact your local, formerly they were called maistraati, as we were discussing, but now they are Digi- ja Väestövirasto, so Digital and Population Institute or something like, or department or something like that. So it's always good to contact them as well. If you're not sure, you can contact them and they'll give you detailed information based on your on the information they have on you, on your eligibility and where you can vote and how to vote and so on and so forth.
Yeah, there was also another question from a person who said that she's lived in Finland for over 3 years, but she's had a temporary residence because she's always made it temporary, not actually understanding what it means to have permanent residence. Sometimes maybe people don't have this understanding, and she was thinking if she would be eligible to vote.
Well, I think as we discussed this during the break, it's very hard for me on this sit down to really comprehend what she means by temporary residence for 3 years. You have to be somehow registered with the Digivirasto somehow that you live in a certain municipality for a certain period of time. So I would actually recommend that the person is either in touch with us at the Ministry of Justice or with their local municipal election council or with their local Digivirasto to ask about their eligibility, because it's very, and it's actually not in my mandate to declare anyone's eligibility or uneligibility to vote without knowing the details of why they have resorted to that kind of solution.
Absolutely.
But in considering that she has been here for over 3 years on a continuous basis, then there might be reason to be eligible, but I cannot say for sure.
Thank you so much. We were talking about before we went for a forced break, we were talking about how Finland is actually one of the few countries in the world where they allow non-citizens to vote in the municipal election. And perhaps is it because they still think that residents should be allowed to be involved in the decision making of their city, although they are not citizens of the country? Where does it come from?
Yes, I think that's the principle, and you remember in the beginning we talked about the principle of the very strong principle of democracy, and the fact that power rests with the people. So when we go to the municipal level, we have to remember that the members of the municipalities are at the end of the day the taxpayers, the service users. They are at the same time the people who are basically building and developing the municipality on the ground. So
Yes.
it is only logical that these people have also the right to elect people who will make decisions on their behalf in the municipal council.
Yeah, well, it makes so much sense. But I want to ask before I actually, but what are actually the decisions made at the municipal level, specific decisions?
Yeah, well,
Can you tell us a bit more?
referring again to the 4 principles, the one of rule of law, all the decisions made by the municipality are stipulated by law. Just to simplify things, the municipalities, once the municipal council has been established, then the municipal council act stipulates gives us a more detailed description of the self-autonomy of a municipality and what it should do and to serve its residents. But just to break it down into like general categories, I would say that the municipalities carry out, say, 5-6 main activities. Probably the first one and the most important one is healthcare. So we're talking about basic healthcare when you're feeling unwell and you can just walk into a local dispensary without having to pay anything, and something that many people in the world are marveled by. Yeah,
to the health center.
Exactly, you just go to the health center and you'll get a bill later on.
Yes.
The other thing that municipalities make decisions on is social welfare, so child welfare services, care for the elderly, so on and so forth, and daycare, people with disabilities, and then educational and cultural services, so schools, both lower, upper secondary schools, basic education, so on and so forth. Then you go to the technical services, so roads, infrastructure, sewage services, so on and so forth. And then on the far end, then you can have, for example, sports and leisure activities, parks, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And the way these tasks are divided within a municipality differs per municipality, and there is, if I remember correctly, 296 municipalities, so they differ in every municipality. So what you have is a municipal council will then, once it has been established, it will divide itself into what you call
Committees. Yes.
So you have education, health,
So that they focus on each.
education and this, that and the other, and they can be divided in very many different ways.
Yeah.
But there also proportional representation works. So the bigger parties get the bigger positions,
Yeah,
and the smaller
absolutely.
parties get the smaller positions.
Yeah. But in a way, this answers a bit my next question, which is why vote? Why is it important? Does it make a difference?
Yes, it makes a huge difference. It makes an enormous difference. Maybe this is a personal appeal to you now to vote in the upcoming elections, knowing that you have not voted before. It makes a huge difference because basically you are, as an individual, you are first of all manifesting your power within a democratic system. It sounds a bit egoistic, but you are making a decision into creating a decision-making body, which is very important. But even more important than that is that when the council is formed, it's basically sealed for 4 years unless there is unforeseeable circumstances.
Yes.
And these people will be making very important decisions that are
Life-changing
part
decisions.
of your daily life.
Yeah.
Be it schools, be it leisure time, be it transport, infrastructure, so on and so forth. These people will be making very important decisions. So it's very, very important to vote.
And thinking of immigrants, for instance, we have perhaps a different need in certain things compared to the Finnish population, let's just say, for example. So then it will be good to have representatives within the council that actually see that, because that is what a representative is in the end, isn't it?
Exactly.
It comes from the people. And
yeah, well, I cannot encourage anybody to vote for anybody, but I would say that it is only natural that a municipal council representative who understands your life position will most probably speak on issues that are important to you. So it could be that you are interested in enhancing youth issues.
yes,
You're interested in enhancing migrant issues, elderly people care,
yes,
safer cities or municipalities. If that is your thing, then you should look for the candidate who will further your issues and the issues that you find to be important.
Thank you so much. I will go to the next question. Of course, now we were talking about this specific municipal election, but I want to broaden it and just in general talk about participation.
Yeah.
As, for instance, immigrants living in Finland, how, what is participation and why is it so important, other than, going to the poll once every 4 years?
Yes. This is a very good question, and I like the way this discussion is going, because one of the things that you said in your opening remarks was a lack of sense of belonging. I remember that very vividly, because participation cannot be looked at as one aspect that's separate from other issues. Participation is part of a complex weave of issues that impact on people's willingness to participate or to contribute to anything. So participation is very important when we're speaking about people who have migrated here, people with migrant backgrounds, because when we look at participation from the perspective of the participant, it says that I feel willing, I feel safe, I feel confident enough that my participation can make a difference. Before you reach that point where somebody has that feeling, it's very difficult to encourage participation. But on the other hand, as a facilitator of participation, you have to create structures and provide information in a way that makes the participant feel that I can equally participate, I can equally contribute
And be heard.
And make a difference. So it's not just a one-way process, it's a two-way process, in that the opportunities to participate have to be made available, and the participant has to feel secure and safe and important enough to participate. When those two come together, then you find people are more willing to participate. When it comes to migrants, it's actually a very complex process, because many people think that only by looking at integration that we can be able to measure participation, but it's not that direct. We have communities that are very well integrated into society, yet their political participation is still very low, for one reason or the other. Yet you have communities, migrant communities, that are averagely integrated, but for some reasons and in some aspects are very politically active. So the question lingers is, why the disparity? What makes people participate? And what we have through the research community, especially from the Tampere, University of Tampere, there's very competent political science researchers have shown us that these are just instances that have been brought forward. Marrying or being married to a person of Finnish citizenship has some impact.
Helped integration, maybe?
It helps in voter activity.
In voter activity.
Yes. Having children more than one children who leave study in a Finnish school also has some impact. The social economic position of a person and a family has impact on interest to vote. And
employment.
Securing employment also has got
That's
some impact. Not as much as we would think.
Really?
But no, not as much as we would think. But it does have some impact.
I would say maybe language has been such a bad...
Language proficiency.
The right is here,
yes,
but if people don't know about it, it's inaccessible. I mean, absolutely pointless to have the right. If you think of the paper, for example, coming, I don't know when, maybe 10, 15 years ago, only in Finnish and Swedish,
yes,
you are indirectly telling people you're not, you know, it's inaccessible. You're not allowed to participate because you don't even know what is actually coming to your door.
Precisely.
Not to say for it to be translated into all the languages in the world, but at least...
And it has been translated to several languages, I think 8 or 9 languages. But yes, but not many years back. But the problem is, as important as the provision of information is,
yes,
our weakness as civil servants and as service providers, we are obliged to provide the information. But as we know, it's not necessarily enough, and that's why we need partners like Think Africa, Moniheli, and other actors in society to relay the information and to encourage people to vote. We can do more, we should do more, we will do more to make participation more open, and the law requires it basically. But we cannot do it alone. That is a weakness we are willing to confess to. We cannot do it alone. We need especially our civil society actors.
As Think Africa is doing.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
that is what we're trying to do for people to easily understand what it is, what it means to participate, and what is at stake here in a way. Yeah, thank you so much, Peter. I think it has made a lot of sense, and I can promise you I'm going to vote this June.
That's very good.
I have it booked June 13.
Remember, you can vote. I think it's also good at the end we talk about the current situation, the current COVID situation.
Yes.
Remember to stay healthy when voting. I would encourage people not to wait until June 13th. You can vote beforehand. Remember, if your health or life situation deters you from accessing a polling station, you can also vote at home, where an election official will come to officially collect your vote from your home. You can vote beforehand, as I said. Go early to the polling stations, and you can as well go to the voting station on the 13th. Wear your masks and stay safe and maintain social distancing.
Thank you so much, Peter. I think it's hopefully a bit clearer to our audience also.
I hope so.
About the municipal election, and if you have questions, please put it in our comments, and we will try to answer as much as possible.
Yes.
And also, I think the next I Vote series will be on the 13th of April, where I will have a panel discussion with 3 candidates. You'll get to hear a bit about what their political stand is and also the parties they represent. If you liked this video, please share it with others, and the recorded version will also be on our YouTube channel. Apologies again for the technical difficulty, and thank you for being patient with us. I think that's about it. Thank you so much, and goodbye. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And bye.
Bye.